Hello, Johnny from Eurogamer here, taking a quick look at This Is the Police, which is a game that's both really fun and rather troubling. The central premise of This Is the Police is really cool. You're the police chief of Freiburg, in charge of keeping crime down by monitoring calls and dispatching officers to arrest suspects and protect the innocent. As calls come in, you commit officers to the call-out based on how many people you have available and how dangerous the situation seems. Sometimes officers will call for backup, but frequently there isn't time. So if you've judged the situation wrong, the suspect will get away and people, including your officers, could end up dying. Talking of your officers, each one has a skill rating which goes up or down depending on whether they manage to successfully arrest a suspect or not. This rating determines how reliable each officer is, so the higher rated your cops, the more consistently they'll make arrests. In order to keep them reliable, however, they need to stay rested. Your officers are split into two shifts, A and B, and while you can ask officers to work double time to cover any staff shortages, they're likely to become exhausted and make mistakes. The same goes for detectives, who are employed to make more elaborate investigations and hopefully crack cases ranging from hit and runs to entire criminal gangs. Sometimes employees will ask for the day off at the very start of a shift, which is annoying, and it's up to you to grant their requests or not. Keeping your officers happy is, of course, important, but if you don't have enough officers on shift, you're going to struggle to keep crime under control, and City Hall is going to get annoyed with you. And when that happens, they start limiting the number of officers you can have on staff, which only makes matters more difficult. And while all this is happening, by the way, you're on the take. See, not content with being a really well-built law enforcement simulator, This Is the Police also has a substantial story mode, which, well, frankly, is a bit too talkative for its own good, but at least it adds some interesting context.
Rude, arrogant, no warning. That's Mayor Rogers in a nutshell.
As police chief of Freiburg, you're getting on a bit, and City Hall is forcing you out of your job and into retirement. You have 180 days left and no pension, so it's time to start raking in money. Fast. Your goal is to hit $500,000, and there are a couple of ways to go about it. You could try being the best police chief Freiburg has ever seen, keeping the crime rate down in order to increase your salary and rake in bounties from high-value criminal targets. Or you could go crooked and start running errands for the mafia in exchange for cash payments and other favours. You can also abuse the system from within. For instance, when one of your officers dies, you can just sort of forget to declare them dead, carrying on one officer short while you collect their salary, all for yourself. All of these systems are really well thought out, and the execution is very stylish. The record player is an especially nice touch, letting you curate the game's soundtrack as you try to stomp out crime or help one side of the town's mafia power struggle gain supremacy over the other. Mechanically then, This Is the Police is a really fun game to play. Tonally, however, it's a different story. Like so many games revolving around law enforcement, This Is the Police attempts to show things aren't all smiles and justice and rainbows, which is fine. It also tries, in places, to make you laugh, which, again, is fine and, I think, often necessary in a game like this. The problem with This Is the Police is that these things very easily get muddled up in their presentation. There are several scenarios in which it's really not clear whether the developer expects you to laugh at or reflect on what's being presented, and the result is that it doesn't really work either way. Instead, these moments come out as confused, awkward, and, in several cases, insensitive. Here are a few examples. During one shift, I fielded a call out to an attempted homicide in which a woman was chasing a man down the street, brandishing a knife and screaming obscenities at him, including an extremely derogatory term for a gay person. Okay, I thought, not a word I'd choose to put in my game, but then crime isn't exactly pretty, and I suppose it's trying to reflect that. A later call-out, which came in the same shift, was about a woman who had gone into a hamburger restaurant, pulled a gun and started shooting, screaming, "I hate fat people." And it was at that point I had to pause and really think about how This Is the Police presents itself. The situation was pretty ludicrous, and it seemed like This Is the Police was making an attempt at a bit of dark humour, but what does that mean for the example before it? Was that supposed to be a joke? Was there meant to be something funny about a man being attacked by a woman spewing hate speech because presumably he'd hidden his sexuality from her and or cheated on her with a man? The simple fact is, I don't know. In having these two scenarios alongside one another, the lines of their presentation get blurred to the extent I don't know whether This Is the Police finds homophobia fair game for comedy or not. Similarly, I don't know whether it's trying to make a serious point about fat people or whether it's just trying to be off the wall. And that's troubling. This Is the Police exists in this tonal grey area in which I'm not sure if it's trying to say something poignant about the LGBT community, ethnic minorities, murder victims, and other people such as the mentally ill, or sneer at them. On balance, I don't think This Is the Police was consciously designed to be hateful. However, it needed a great deal more oversight in terms of the events included and the way they were handled. At best they come across as careless, at worst they're simply offensive, but they're often tone deaf too. At one point during my time with This Is the Police, I got a memo from City Hall saying a racist gang was going around targeting black people. They had threatened to start killing all black police officers, firefighters, and medical emergency teams, and City Hall's response was a request for me to fire all my black officers. Now, this is clearly meant to be a moral dilemma for the player and is set against a backdrop of considerable existing tension between the police and City Hall. Nonetheless, I have to question the wisdom of using this particular scenario as a way of illustrating that friction. Tensions regarding ethnic minorities and United States police officers have been high for a very long time, but especially so in the last 2 years, with a spate of killings, riots, and of course the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm not saying issues like this can't be discussed in video games, but the way it's handled in this particular instance seems pretty ham-fisted. It is possible not to comply with the order, but you'll be badgered repeatedly to do it and punished if you don't. So functionally this section serves its purpose as a moral quandary, but considering the heightened tension between people of colour and the police force of the United States, it feels pretty misguided, especially considering the game's already muddled tone. Ultimately, This Is the Police is a really well-made video game, and I had a great time playing it, at first. But the poor handling of a bunch of different issues steadily chipped away at my feelings of positivity until I really didn't feel any desire to keep going. This Is the Police makes such a hash of letting you know whether it's trying to make you laugh or make you think that it struggles to make you do either, and that's really disappointing. Anyway, hopefully you found this video on This Is the Police interesting. If you did, you might want to check out some of these other videos. If you're already subscribed, then thanks very much for doing so, but if not, please consider giving that button a press. Either way, thanks for watching.